Welcome in, everybody on Instagram. Hello and welcome. YouTube, welcome. We are here. Welcome in, everybody. All right. Let's just check if everything's working properly. I think we are good to go. Welcome in. All right, you guys saw my tweet. Hopefully you guys don't understand what this is about. You guys see the title on Instagram. For you guys that don't know what this live stream is about, we're gonna talk about if these Major League Baseball players deserve the amount of money that they are getting and these massive contracts. It's a big topic of the offseason. There's been a lot of finalized contracts recently, and people are highly debating whether or not these dudes for real deserve these amount of dollar signs that are getting thrown at them. So I want to talk about that a little bit. It's a massive topic, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So if you're here live on Instagram, I want you to write in the comments, what do you think? Do they deserve these large contracts? Is there a specific guy that you're watching that got a contract or needs a contract? Did he get what he deserved? I want to hear everybody's thoughts and reactions of these massive contracts. And yes, okay, great point, ASAP Mikey. It's not the money. He's talking about the length. The people are getting $30 million as a 40-year-old. Yes, 100%. Yeah, they're paying. Yes, they're paying a 40-year-old $20 million or $30 million. Excuse me. Is he worth that time? I mean, that's an insane amount of money for somebody who's at the later stages in their career. But you know, the discussion is endless because you talk about players' worth, and this is how the big leagues runs. Everything is based on what these organizations basically deem your worth, your value, what you can offer, and what that means in terms of money for them. So let me hear if you guys have any other comments and ideas on these big league baseball players that are getting these big money contracts. I know Trey Turner just signed a huge deal. If you guys know of any others, let me know, man. Hit me up. This is what we're here for. We're going to talk about it. DeGrom, unpaid for years. Yes. Yeah, so he's worth it. DeGrom, I mean, he's one of the best baseball players in the game for sure. One of the best pitchers. He's young. Rodon is a steal for the Yankees, I think. I agree. Exactly. The health is the big thing, especially with these throwers like DeGrom. It's like how much can they maintain their health? How durable are they? Are they going to be able to perform consistently like they have been for years and years and years, like they've been paid for? It's always a big question mark, and I think that's the risk that a lot of the organizations are willing to take with these guys that have a tremendous upturn. If they do stay healthy, you get this incredible boost, to your team, and it's worth that money and worth having them on your side rather than letting somebody else scoop them up. And international signings are another subject, man, and something that I don't think people talk about enough. These international signings, especially from the Asian countries, when you get these Japanese players or Korean players that are coming over and they're older players already because they've been playing professionally in Japan and Korea for a long time, and they're well established, and they finally decide to try to go to America and play in the major leagues, and they get these massive contracts, and they're already past their prime in their career. Not past their prime, but they're in their prime, and they don't have as many years left as one would think, and they're getting paid an incredible amount of money. So that's another thing. Not only that, but the international signees from the Latin American countries too, and a lot of them from Cuba, where they get these massive contracts. I mean, you guys remember Yasiel Puig? Oh my goodness. And the amount of money these Cubans get. Aroldis Chapman was one of them for sure. Benintendi Benintendi signed. Where did Benintendi sign? I haven't read about Anthony Benintendi's signing yet. Oh, the White Sox. I apologize for the coughs. I've been a little bit sick. It's been going around. I think a lot of people are, but yeah, Benintendi. What is his contract? 75 million. Is that true? ASAP, Mikey. Is that true? 75 million for 5 years. I mean, he's a great player. Great player. That's a lot of money though for I mean, I would say he's a top tier defensive outfielder. Offensively, he's been good lately. It's tough to say if that, the 5 years, 75 million. So he's getting paid quite a bit. It's tough to say if that's worthwhile or not. It depends on a lot of things, but he's a good ball player. I think that it makes him a lot more sense when you have a guy like Benintendi who's a little bit more durable. I feel like he hasn't been injured that much. He's a little bit more reliable. Mets or Yankees rotation. Oh boy. I gotta slow this down. It's going too quick. Never panned out. Okay, so Ian, you're saying Castillo from the Red Sox never panned out, and he got quite a bit early on. Yeah. This is the thing, man. You have to understand these organizations have endless amounts of money. They have endless amounts of money, and they take these risks. They have to. And if they don't pay off, they just scratch it as a loss and move on to the next thing because they don't need to worry about the money that they're losing. And it's kind of it's a little bit sickening the amount of money that gets thrown around. But as many people that we hear about getting these massive contracts, as many as you see succeed, and many of the people that you see succeed and that makes it worthwhile, there's 10 to 20 that don't, like Rusney Castillo from the Red Sox. I mean, not panning out over time and getting a whole bunch of money. They take risks like that on players all the time, and it's tough to know whether they're gonna be worth it or not, and oftentimes they fail and they're not worth it. But that's nothing. I mean, millions of dollars. I mean, the organizations make that up, and they really don't care, man. They throw money at these guys like you wouldn't believe. And I kind of wanted to steer the conversation away from the big leagues too, because a lot of people don't realize that this stuff is happening all the time in the minor leagues, and obviously I spent the majority of my time professionally in the minor leagues, so I saw a lot more of that happening than the major league signings. But when they draft kids and sign kids and internationally when they're young, I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars again. I mean, my draft year 2013, when I signed with the Astros, I think the number one overall pick that year was Mark Appel. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Mark Appel, but he was a big deal back then. Really good college baseball player, and he signed for I think $7 million out of college. And I don't think he ever even touched the big leagues. I don't even think he made it. He made it to maybe AA, maybe AAA. I don't really remember how the end of his career panned out, but yeah, he never amounted to anything, and that's a big chunk of cash. But like I said, these dudes, they don't, these organizations, they throw money and they don't care. They want to take risks, and they want to spend the money for the potential of something great. And because that's what happens when they hit one, even if it's 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 50 that they hit, it's a big turn, big upturn from it. They get a big benefit from it. So tough, but the money in the big leagues is crazy money, crazy, and it's getting way crazier now. I mean, these lengthy deals. I mean, Trey Turner, what was his 13 years? I mean, 13 years. I mean, this is what we play for as professional, baseball players. You want a consistent, reliable income. You want security. You want financial security for your family. You want, in anything in life, that's what you want. And, signing a deal that's going to guarantee you money for 13 years, that's any player's dream, man. And Trey is one of the few that I think is really deserving of that, because he's young and he's going to play for a long time, and he's a tremendous ball player. He offers a lot, and Swanson to the Cubs. I thought Correa was going to go there or Swanson, but Correa signed with the Giants, so I think they're going to go after Swanson. You talking about Dansby? Yeah, I mean, who do you think is going to win that battle, Dansby or Correa? Carlos Correa, I think it's tough talking about Carlos because, I mean, he's part of that Astros team that, cheaters and all that stuff went down, and it's tough to know his real worth and if he's really worth it. But I don't know if Carlos is on the same caliber as Dansby. I know Dansby's a really good player and offers a lot and has been consistent and been good for a really long time. And, I think Carlos has been very inconsistent and he's also injury prone and a little bit, I think, overrated. Maybe it's not too bold for me to say that, but yeah, I think the Cubs won out on that decision if they go with Dansby rather than Carlos. Good point though. Yeah, any others? Just feel free to fire them away, man. I'm here. We're gonna talk about it. There's tons of movement. I know Verlander signed a deal for several million for a year to go play with the Mets. I mean, Clayton Kershaw signed a 1 year, got some money. I mean, these guys are older guys and they're looking for places to continue to have their career, and that can be an interesting dynamic because you have these guys they're still really good, but obviously they're not going to be playing for 10, 12 years. And they're looking for, it's so tough being a free agent when you're at that point in your career. So tough. So tough. And if you're not a high profile guy like Kershaw or Verlander, it's really tough to get signed when you're a free agent looking for a squad. There's just they value what they value, and these organizations value health. I think is a big one. Health and longevity and durability is a gigantic piece of the puzzle, and I think that's why Trey Turner signed for such a long time. I think that they think that he's going to stay healthy and he's athletic, and he produces a tremendous amount for any team that he's on, defensively, offensively, maybe even off the field. I think that offers a little bit too. So anybody else got anything you want to chat about? Got lots of big contracts going down. Dansby, Swanson, yeah. Who wins the NL East? Good question, man. It's tough to tell right now. I mean, you got some really good teams in the NL East these days. I think the Mets. The Mets are always hard to rule out these days. They had a good team last year. And the Phillies, the Braves, God, they're all so good. Nationals they're on the downturn a little bit, but Phillies are a dark horse, man. And I think they just signed. Did they just sign Vince Velasquez? I think the Phillies just signed Vince Velasquez, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But Vince, I played with Vince when I was young and in the minor leagues, and he's a tremendous athlete, really good player, really good pitcher, has a lot of athletic gifts. So it'll be interesting to see the Phillies too. But that's going to be a very competitive division, and at least it's going to be extremely competitive. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the minor leagues a little bit more. But yeah, because in the minor leagues, it works a little different. Obviously, there's not as much money getting thrown around, but the argument of worth comes out a ton when you're talking about these minor league prospects and players that are building their lives and their careers from the bottom. And, there's been a lot of debate on how much money these people deserve when they sign, when they haven't given away any inkling that they're going to be good players yet. Some of them are so young. They sign when they're 16 years old sometimes, and out of high school when they're 18, and It's so difficult to tell if these people are going to pan out. And then you have a lot of other people who are not being paid at all, who are tremendously good and really talented, and sometimes don't get recognized financially for that until way later in their careers. And I think that it's a sad thing about the minor leagues. I think they take advantage of a lot of the guys in the minor leagues. And being somebody who's lived that life, and watching so many of my teammates and friends go through that lifestyle, I mean, it's so tough because you see people that are not necessarily deserving get paid, and it's sickening, and it makes your heart hurt for these guys that are deserving, that are getting nothing. And it's just hard to watch these kids underperform and get rewarded for it, and then the kids overperform that are on the sidelines and not necessarily flashy, or they just do their job, and they play well, and they offer a lot, and they compete their butts off, and they don't get rewarded for it. It happens a lot in the minor leagues. And signing bonuses, I mean, all that stuff. You get these bonus babies that come in from the draft, and they got their heads held high, and they think their crap don't stink. And you really have to try to ignore that kind of stuff when you're in the minor leagues, because you can get caught up in it a lot, and there's a lot of that going around. But like I said, these organizations want to take risks, and they want to pay guys because the upside can be insanely beneficial to them. And they're gonna take their hits if they need to, like Mark Appel signing for $7 million and never making it to the big leagues. They're gonna take that hit, and they're gonna move on to the next one. They don't necessarily care. The money's it's crazy. I mean, the money is crazy in the minor leagues. You don't get paid. I mean, until you, quite literally, if you don't sign a big signing bonus out of college or out of high school, you're not going to make any money until you make it to the big leagues. And that is an arduous journey. And even some of these guys that sign big contracts, they go through the minor leagues, and they don't make any money. They live off their signing bonuses, and they have to live off that. And people that don't get big signing bonuses have very little. I was one of those people. I never got paid, never expected to get paid. The argument is always, oh, you play baseball for a living, and you don't stop complaining about not getting paid enough and all this stuff. And yeah, that's great. And I never necessarily complained, and I knew that I had to kind of start from the bottom and work my way up. So I knew what to expect. But at a certain stage, you have a life that you have to pay for, and things cost money, and you can't just say, oh, I'm making $1,500 a month, but I get to play baseball every day. But it's hard to live off that money. It's hard to feed yourself. It's hard to pay for living situations, and not all of that is supplied for you when you're in the minor league. So it's an interesting dynamic in the minor leagues. I know that there's a lawsuit going around right now too, I think for it's a wage lawsuit on minor league baseball players. I'm pretty sure that somebody is trying to get compensation for not making more than minimum wage, or however they broke it down. I'm not sure, but it's crazy the amount of time that you spend at the baseball field when you're playing in the minors, or in the majors for that matter. The amount of time you get paid for is a fraction of that time that you actually spend at the field. I mean, talking about getting to the field at sometimes 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then not leaving until sometimes 11 p.m., maybe later, depending on the game and the situation. And that's a lot of hours to not get compensated for. And I think they only pay you, or at least when I played, they only paid you for the assumption of the game, the time allotted to the actual gameplay. So not necessarily deserving, but anyways, we're getting a little bit off topic here. So let me hear it. Anybody on Instagram, you guys got any other big contracts you want to talk about? Send me some names, man. I can Google some stuff, and we can break it down. YouTube as well. Like, if you guys have anything you want to discuss about these contracts. I mean, these dudes are getting paid a lot of money. The money's going up every year. We see a newer, bigger contract. I mean, whew. Who is the biggest one this year so far? I think Let's see here. Who is the biggest contract? Fernando Tatis Jr., 14 years. See, that's an interesting situation because he got popped for steroids this year, and he signed his contract. I believe he signed it in 2021, so he signed before he got popped with steroids, which is very interesting. But he's got, I mean, he's a really interesting case because, you know, he's going to continue to play. Like, his contract is until 2034. I mean, he's got 12 more years of this contract where he's going to make $350 million. Or I'm sorry, 340 million. Yeah, 340 million over 14 years. So he's got, you know, 13 years left of this contract, 12 years left of this contract, and he got popped for steroids. And what, you know, what does an organization do then? You know, does he serve his time? What if he gets caught again? And you know, how's it going to look when he comes back and he has this kind of stigma around his name? Yeah, I think for someone like that, and I talked about this with my wife earlier, but I think that someone like Fernando Tatis Jr., who gets caught with steroids, gets caught with performance enhancing drugs, it should be something in your contract where that money just poof, gone. I think that would incentivize a lot of people to not do performance enhancing drugs and get caught, or not get caught, but not do that kind of thing to cheat the system, because that would keep everybody straight. You're gonna take away their money, man. Nobody's gonna juice after that. Is Judge worth $40 million a year? You know what? If he keeps performing like he did last year, he's worth every penny. But again, is that just a crazy year, or is he, you know, is he gonna come back and be that impressive again? I mean, Shannon, where did he sign? Did he sign somewhere? I have to look that up because I haven't heard anything about Aaron Judge. Is it not official yet? He signed with the Yankees. Let's see here. 9 years, 360 million. Is that what you mean? A cheater should not be allowed to play at all. I mean, Steven Watchman, I mean, you're preaching to the choir, man. I couldn't agree with you more on that. That's another big conversation that I would love to talk about a little bit. Maybe we can talk about it here right now. I mean, I got no limitations here, but cheaters should not be getting paid at all. I 100% agree. And I don't think it matters how you cheat either. I think that's a vastly underpunished thing that's happening, and a huge problem. I mean, these players that are cheating and juicing and using performance enhancing drugs, and then they're serving their quick time, whatever it is. You know, what is it for a big leaguer? 60 games or 100 games? Maybe 100 games, and then you just come back and like nobody seems to care, and you just keep getting paid, and they keep throwing money at you, and makes no sense. So I agree with you, man. I'm not sorry either. That's the thing about Aaron Judge too, Shannon, is he's playing at Yankee Stadium. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Yankee Stadium, but that place is the smallest baseball stadium in the big leagues, I think. I mean, he's going to hit so many home runs there because that place is so small. So, I mean, is he worth $40 million a year somewhere else? Probably not. But at Yankee Stadium, I mean, he's going to be able to flick balls over that fence. It's crazy. I will not have the day when Barry, Mark, or Roger get in the Hall of... It's just sickening. Oh, yeah, all the steroid, yeah. I mean, what is even going on with that? Like, I haven't heard anything about, you know, Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire. or Roger Clemens, all those people getting caught cheating. Like, did they ever? I mean, I'm pretty sure they just admitted to it, and everyone's saying they still deserve. I mean, that shouldn't even be. It shouldn't even be a discussion. They don't deserve that at all. I agree. Ooh, Shannon Evans, great question. She asked, what about Trevor Bauer? Did his actions warrant a 2-year suspension? Yeah, Trevor, I mean, I'm not sure what has come out about the allegations that were thrown at him about him abusing women or whatever the actual specific allegations were. But I'm pretty sure that he's been very transparent about it. As much as I've... Yeah, let Aaron play in Seattle. Good point, yeah. Yeah. I agree. Oh, man, what about if he was at San Francisco? Have you guys ever seen San Francisco's ballpark? He's... that ballpark is huge, so that would be... Like, he would be a whole different player there, you know? Yeah, I don't know if Bauer... All charges were dropped. Yeah, see, I was going to say, I think they were just, the women were kind of just crazy and trying to take advantage of his money and trying to make stuff happen where there wasn't. And I think that it's crazy to me that somebody like Trevor Bauer, who's innocent apparently, is barred for 2 years, and then you have somebody like Fernando Tatis Jr. who is juicing and gets to come back and like nothing's happened. It's just absurd to me. It feels a little like the system's a little broken when you have things like that. I feel tremendously bad for Trevor Bauer. I might add that, just because, I mean, if it does come out that he is, I mean, which they dropped all charges, so I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have anything on his name anymore. But like, if he didn't do anything and he's had to miss 2 of the prime years of his career because of this crap, like, that is so sad. I feel so bad for him, because you're talking about money that he's never going to get back. And Trevor Bauer is one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's never going to get an opportunity to make up for those last 2 years. They're just gone. Poof. Nothing. He has nothing to show for it. Can't do anything about it. Can't go back in time. And I mean, he's going to be 2 years older. He's going to be, you know, it's very sad. The system is biased. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. A-Rod, yes. That's another big one. Oh, man. Have you guys seen the A-Rod documentary? It's not an A-Rod documentary, but I think it's called... Man, what is it called? There's a documentary on... A lot of it is on A-Rod. A lot of it is on Manny Ramirez, too. I forget what it's called, but it's very interesting. What degree did you get to do the practice you do? What degree did you get to do the practice you do? Fredo, I'm not sure what you mean by that. What degree do I get to do the practice that you do? I think he's asking what my my past history is to give me the coaching job. I do have a degree. I have a degree in communications, but that's not separate. Like in school, yeah, I was a communications major in college. I have my degree in my bachelor's degree in communications, but that's not why I get to do this. Why I get to do this is because I played professionally, and I played professionally, and I played baseball my whole life, but I played professionally for close to 8 years, and now I'm coaching from my knowledge of playing professionally. I think that's my degree, you know. We think Roid Guru Jose say you cannot say Canseco. Yeah, Fredo. So that's my experience with baseball stuff. Screwball. Thank you, Shannon. That's what the documentary is called, Screwball. You guys should go watch Screwball. It's very interesting. A lot of it is about Manny Ramirez, and then eventually how A-Rod came into play with how they kind of sourced their steroids from the same source, and they got to I got to juice, and they use kind of the same network to be able to juice and keep it, very hush hush. But that's a dicey subject. I'm not sure if a lot of people are talking about Screwball, but yeah, it's a good documentary, very interesting. Yeah, you're welcome, Fredo. Yeah, if you guys have any questions too about me or about what I do here at ATP, let me know as well. We can kind of shift topics. It's been 30 minutes, and if you guys have any baseball questions, I mean, mechanical questions, pitching questions, we can talk about anything here. This is something for me to interact with you guys and build a little communication here between me and the community, the ATP community. So if you guys have any questions or things you want to talk about, we can continue to talk about contracts, man. There's tons of other contracts that I've got that we haven't talked about yet. Good old Bryce Harper. I remember when he signed his contract in 2019, that was being a big thing. True, Steven. Yeah, he did. Well, he ratted on him, right? Is that a noble way to go out? Jose Canseco, my goodness. How did you come up with the 90-mile-an-hour formula from Slow Hemi? I didn't come up with the 90-mile-an-hour formula. Our CEO, Josh Heenan, Dr. Josh Heenan did. And he's a brilliant guy. But he studied strength training since, as long as I've known him. And he was my strength coach in college. Way back in 2000, I think he started in 2009. I want to say it was 2009, 2010 was my freshman year of college, and I think he was my strength coach my freshman year. So that's when I met him. But he developed the 90-mile-an-hour formula over a long period of time, and I know that he spent years and years and years trying to collect data to be able to prove these things that he was claiming about the 90-mile-an-hour formula. But that's a better question to ask him. He's going to be on. We're going to do a live stream with Josh at some point in the future, and he's going to be on here, and you guys are going to be able to ask him yourself all these questions about the 90-mile-an-hour formula. But yeah, he developed it and mastered it and found a whole bunch of data and researched it and created what we have today that we've built this remote programming on. So props to him. I was probably one of his study rats that he used to gather data. Let me scroll back here. Do you think Fernando Tatis would ever be an option for the Yankees? Yeah, the Yankees will want to pay him, but he's got a massive contract right now with the Padres. I don't know. It's going to take a long time for him to get done with that. I don't know if that contract folded or whatever, but he's locked up for a while. Yeah, when Canseco signed for 39. So they didn't care back then, right? 39 million. They didn't give one crap about steroids back then. Obviously they didn't care. You were a happier camper when players were still players and not celebrities, huh, Steve? Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's changed so much in the last couple of years, especially now with social media, when everybody is so accessible. Look what we're doing right now. This is a live stream. You guys get to talk directly to me, and this kind of thing can happen with the whole world. And these guys are so accessible to their fans, and there is some kind of a stardom that happens with professional baseball players, and people go crazy. I played with Mike Trout and Pujols too, but it was more so for Trout. It's just insane to see the media and all of the attention that he gets, going from town to town or city to city when we travel and going through airports. Like we had to go through the airport because we had to go through customs when we went to Toronto when I debuted, and when we came back we had to go through customs again. So you actually have to go to an airport. Usually you just go to a private runway where they have like a separate plane so you don't have to go through the regular airport or whatever. But in Toronto. He had to go to the actual airport, and there's just media, like they were quite literally chasing Mike through the airport, like trying to get an interview or whatever. I mean, it's crazy, the celebrity that comes with being a high profile baseball player. It's insane. And I mean, Mike's awesome guy. Like, you know, it's nothing that he's doing that's wrong. He's just, you know, he's not, he can't do it all the time. You can't entertain these media people constantly like that. It's insane. Yeah, when they're making more than, a lot of people make more than the president, though. The president's salary is pretty mediocre compared to a lot of the other jobs in this country. So I agree with you, Steve. Shannon, was there any pressure to use PEDs while you were playing? Great question. No. I never ran into anything like testosterone or steroids or anything like that. What was more prevalent, and I think I never felt any pressure to do any of this, but what was more prevalent as far as performance enhancing drugs was the Adderall stuff, and the Adderall use. And it's gotten pretty, well, I was playing, it was pretty out of hand, because you could get a doctor to write you a prescription, and you could fill out a certain amount of paperwork or whatever, and you could go through some red tape, and you could get a doctor to basically write off that you were allowed to take Adderall. I don't know if you guys know what Adderall is, but it's a focus enhancer, I guess. It's what people give to people that have attention deficit disorder and stuff like that so that they can focus. But it can be extremely helpful in baseball. And when you have it, a little bit of a more lenient system to have kids take it that don't necessarily need it for a medical condition, it's going to give them a leg up, and a ton of people were kind of getting away with that. And I never felt any pressure to use it or need it. I felt that I never needed, I don't have ADD or anything, so I wasn't ever in need of something like that. So it was never really a thought, but I know a lot of people used it that did need it, and a lot of people used it that didn't need it. And we're able to kind of sign off on it. And I've actually seen a bunch of people that got suspended for, when I was really young, I in my career, I think I was in the New York Penn League. I had a couple kids that got suspended who did need it, and they didn't file the right paperwork, and they got suspended for 50 games or whatever for not having the right paperwork. And then they tested a drug test for it, and they got caught. But no, I never felt any pressure, man. I never saw it. I mean, I'm sure that things happen, but if they did, I was ignorant to it. I never witnessed anything like that going down. Yeah, pot, Steve, is another big one. I think less important. Slow Hemi, let me answer Steve. Let me talk about Steve's question first, and then I'll get to you. Steve writes, they used to bust you for pot, and pot is now like candy. So pot has changed a little bit. But they when I played, they still were pretty hardcore about it. They randomly tested minor leaguers, and when they did, they tested for performance enhancing and they tested for street drugs, which is different in the big leagues. In the big leagues, they only test for performance enhancing drugs. They don't test for street drugs. So you could get away with it when you got to the 40-man roster, when you got into the big leagues. I think I'm not sure if the rules have changed. I think maybe they should, or maybe they're going to, but I mean, pot's pot. It's like, whatever. I'm not going to get into that too much, but I don't see it as being an issue. It's definitely not enhancing your ability to play. I think more so it's something that's calming these dudes down, and something that they enjoy to relax them. I don't know if that it gives them any edge in competition, but okay. Slow Hammy, how often should you have a high intensity velo day during the off season? Good question. So the way that our programs work, I think we have like maximum 3 days a week, and that's a lot for a high intensity day. 3 times a week is pretty high, but that's pretty good for an off season. If you can go ham with your arm 3 days a week, you're giving yourself a little bit of time, enough time in between to get recovered. But I think a good number is 2 days per week. I like to base a lot of what I do in the programs. A lot of our programs are based off of what it would be like in a real season when you're playing, whether it's high school, whether it's high school, college, or professional. The schedules are often different, and I want to simulate how the schedule would work and then put it into a program. So when you're training, you should try to simulate how it's going to be in season so that you can get your body used to that routine. And the way it was for me and the way I build a lot of my programs off, I would throw very high intensity twice a week. I'd have my game where I was a starter, so it might be different for some people who are relief pitchers, but even so, relief pitchers, usually you throw your game and then you have a few days off depending on how much you threw in that game and other variables. But relievers might throw 3 times a week high intent, which means I'm a starter. So I had my game where I, pitched 100%, tried to get guys out, did my best in the game. And then I had a couple days rest. And then I had my bullpen day where I would try to be as high intensity as I could, depending on how much I recovered or how well I recovered after my game. And then you'd have a couple more days off, and then you'd have another game in 5 days because you're on a 5-day rotation. So that was twice every 7 days, basically. Sometimes it would be short rest, or my bullpen would be different, and it would vary a little bit. But I think that if you can kind of construct a off-season routine that simulates how you would be in a season. In college, I pitched on Friday nights. It was Fridays, and then I had a bullpen in the middle of the week, and then it was twice a week, kind of like that as well. So high school is a little different. I had to, I think high school schedules are different, but I usually played twice, maybe 3 times a week, and I would play shortstop, and then I would pitch. So I'd have a couple high intensity days, maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 in high school. But I mean, when you're training in the off season, Hemi, I would say 2 to 3 times, go hard. Try to simulate your game and your bullpen practice situations as best you can, and then make sure you're giving yourself a day or 2 in between to recover. And even more so, I want you to, in our programs, I want you to think about your recovery a lot more, because recovery is not just something to not do. Like, you're not just going to take a day off. Recovery is something that you have to be invested in. You have to understand what's going to make you feel better for the next time you perform. And that's a huge piece of our programs here, is not only just to take time off, but to use that time wisely to recover your body. It's a great question, though. Thank you, Hemi. Did I miss anybody else's questions? You guys are still hanging. Who was your heroes growing up? Who did you want to like? Steven, good question, man. I was a big Yankee fan growing up. So my heroes were, I lived through the Jeter era, which I think that Derek Jeter is one of the best examples of what you want in a professional player, what you should look up to. He was so classy. So he was one of my heroes, but that Yankee team, there's a bunch of really good players. Mariano, I always watched. Mariano Rivera, the closer, for forever. I lived through their era where they were great for so many years. So those were a couple of my baseball heroes. Definitely Jeter. Pitchers, Mariano. Trying to think if there was any other pitchers that I really enjoyed watching. Oh, there were tons. I missed one question. I think, Dinos, did you want a slider tip, dude? Depends on what you're doing with your slider. I have a baseball right here, but, a lot of people throw sliders differently grip-wise. But my biggest advice for a slider for any pitch, get good at throwing it hard. Get good at throwing it as hard as you can, man. Wherever you grip it, however you spin it, you need to train your body to throw it hard. That's what's going to give it its sharpness. And with a slider, especially, the sharper the better, the more effective it will be. Also, try to keep your fingers on top of the baseball when you throw it. So you see how my fingers are on the top? A lot of people throw their slider, and when they throw it, their hand gets caught underneath the ball like this, and you end up spinning it with the open side of the ball kind of facing up. That's going to give you a lazier spin. Try to keep your fingers on top so that when you spin it, you get this a little bit of a side spin so that it hits gravity and goes down more. I think that's a little bit more of an effective pitch than if you get underneath it. And it creates kind of a lazier spin. So that's my slider tip. Throw the crap out of it. Oh boy, I got to catch up. You guys are asking good questions. Okay, Steve, pitching game has changed so much thanks to big contract. We saw Clayton Kershaw take his crescendo taken away early in the year when the manager pulled him on his perfect game. Yeah, that was tough to watch, huh? When Clayton got pulled in that perfect game, that's so tough, man. So tough, especially for somebody like that. I mean, he's probably never going to have that opportunity again, right? How do I feel about the shift ban? Good question, Hemi. I like the shift ban. I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with that. They had, when I played independent ball in 2019, they had a rule like this where you had to have two infielders on each side of second base. You couldn't have 3-on-1. They had like I think they put like some spray paint over second base behind on the grass in the outfield so that infielders knew not to cross that line. But I'm okay with that. I think that's okay. The shift always felt just a little corny to me. Like it just felt corny. I don't know. I think that the positions should be, I don't know. It's just maybe because I'm old school and I like the way that the game is. But I'm okay with the shift. I was okay with the shift being the shift, and I was okay with the shift being shifted band or whatever. I'm okay with either way. I really don't think it makes that big of a difference. But I like the classic baseball game. I don't think you need to mess with the rules. I think they're good the way they are. Yeah, Derek Jeter and Mariano are definitely my two faves. We need to see a new generation of knuckles. Miss guys like Phil Niekro. Yeah, the knuckleball. Steve, I have a great story about the knuckleball. So I played with a kid who got turned into a knuckleballer. He was a regular left-handed relief pitcher in the minor leagues, and I think he got moved. I was a low-level minor leaguer. I think I was in rookie ball when he got moved from the Atlanta Braves. He was a couple years older than me, but he was left-handed, and the Astros, the organization I was playing for at the time, basically told this kid, "Come on over. We want to make you a knuckleballer. We think you have potential to be successful with the knuckleball." And he was actually a good buddy of mine, but I got to play with him up until I think we were in low A. We were in low class A ball. So I got to play with him in the first kind of beginning part of my career. But throwing a knuckleball is really difficult, man. He had a really tough time with it. A lot of the problems he had with it was because of his mentality. And he had the mentality of, oh, I want to throw hard and get this guy out. And he didn't have that kind of knuckleball mentality like Niekro and Tim Wakefield, when they were very like relaxed, calm people. And I think that's a big part of it. You need to be that way in order to throw that pitch, because what's a knuckleball? I mean, you're basically flipping a coin, like, is it going to be effective or is it not going to be effective? You have no idea whether the weather's going to be good enough for it. I mean, there is so many things depend, on outside forces. It's like, if the wind doesn't move right, like if the air's thin, like wherever you're playing, it's going to be tough, flip a coin, whether it's going to be good, whether you're going to be on or not. And then when the hardest part is when you're not on, there's quite literally nothing you can do about it. You're going to get destroyed because you're just throwing BP, man. When your knuckleball's not moving. And I watched this poor kid, his name was Blake Sims. I watched this poor kid get destroyed sometimes. And sometimes he was nasty. But it was really tough for him mentally. It's really, really tough mentally. It's definitely an art. I think that the reason why you don't see it as often as we used to, or maybe it's not as prevalent in the big leagues as it used to be, is because it's so difficult. So difficult. Slow Hemi, what's your opinion on playing indie ball versus minor leagues? Great question, man. Well, indie ball, so it depends on what situation you're in. I think that if you're in the position that a lot of indie ball teams get built around, which is you're a college baseball player, or maybe you're a couple years after high school and you're wanting to play baseball professionally still, but you're unable to get drafted, unable to get signed to one of these affiliated teams. I think that playing indie ball is a tremendous opportunity because guys get scooped up and signed from indie ball all the time. I mean, that's what the business is. That's how it works. You go to indie ball. It's kind of like a another version of the minor leagues where scouts can grab you and suck you into their minor league organizations from independent ball. I played in a different situation. I played indie ball because I got released from the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2019, right in the beginning of the season, right after spring training. And so when you get released, you're a free agent. And somebody like me who was not a very high profile, I was a low level guy. I had a little bit of time in the major leagues, but not that much. And I was coming off a re-injury, so I was injured and I got injured again. So, there was question marks about my durability and my worth and stuff like that. And anyways, that made it very tough to get signed to an affiliated team after I got released from the Diamondbacks. So my only option from there, if I wanted to continue to play, which of course I did, was to go play independent ball and try to pitch well and try to get signed by somebody and stay fresh to try to get signed by somebody throughout the year. It's really difficult though to make that transition. Actually, quite a few of my teammates in independent ball that year got signed. I know, one of them just debuted, I think, for the Colorado Rockies. Winton Bernard, I want to say is his name. He was a really good ball player, really fast outfielder, really, really fast. But I played with him in 2019 for the Sugarland Skeeters in Texas, and he just debuted this year. So it's not impossible. And there was also a few other ones. I'm trying to remember. There was a pitcher that I played with. I'm forgetting his name. He ended up debuting the following year in COVID year 2020. He debuted with the Astros as a right-handed pitcher. But yeah, playing indie ball can be a great choice, man. I know that a lot of success has happened from going to play indie ball and then getting signed from indie ball. I think it's a very, very different experience than minor league baseball. I can't make that clear enough. It's very different and very challenging. For those of you that are maybe in the minors or in the major leagues and are playing indie ball or getting ready to play indie ball, get ready for something that's not going to be that fun. It's tough. It's very tough. You don't get paid anything. You have to kind of figure stuff out on your own. You have no help from the organizations that you play for. It's a lot of traveling. At least the league that I was in was very difficult, but and I didn't end up getting signed, so maybe it's not worth it. But I had a tremendous time. I had a really good time, and I pitched really well, and I had a wonderful experience. So not the end of the world. Baseball and hockey, arguably the hardest to break out as an everyday player. So to get into the respectable halls are just incredible. Yeah. Hockey, I don't know much about hockey. I hear a lot about it, but I don't know much about the intricacies of getting signed. How much slower are you usually after taking a break from throwing? Steve Karukna. Are you? I think Steve is a remote client. I'm not sure if he was or not. I can't remember if you're current or if you were a previous client. Yeah, you were a client previously, Steve. I remember. I remember. I thought I recognized your name. How much slower are you after you take some time off of throwing? Yeah, it depends on how much time. I think. What's up, Eddie? Oh man, I miss you, Eddie. I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, it depends on how much time. I don't know. I think it doesn't take a lot to start dropping in velo. I think that after like 2-3 weeks of time off, if you're not doing something with your arm, like your muscles are probably gonna atrophy a little bit, and you're gonna lose a lot of strength and power pretty quickly. So it depends. I mean, if you're taking a month off, it shouldn't take too much time to get back to form, but any more than that, and you're looking at a long process to kind of rebuild what you've lost. Eddie, I look forward to it, man. Thanks for tuning in, dude. Yeah, we'll talk on Monday. It's been a while, so we'll catch up on Monday, brother. Glad to hear your arm's doing well. That's great. But yeah, I don't recommend taking more than 2 or 3 weeks off. You're gonna spend a lot of time playing catch up and trying to make up for lost time, and I would rather, if you need time off, take a couple weeks and then come back and keep building on what you had and don't lose too much. But that's kind of where things are headed in the baseball world as far as taking time off. A lot of people used to tell me to take time off and that it was good to take months, 2 months, 3 months off. I don't agree with that anymore. I used to. I've tried every version of taking time off and none of them really helped me. I think the best option is to continue to throw, or if you need it, take a couple weeks and that's it, and then get back into doing something. Even if it's not a crazy amount, if you come back in and you're doing, throwing a little bit, I think that can even help keep things going. But yeah, it doesn't take long for your muscles to lose strength. I mean, I'll never forget. I was, after I had, I guess, retired from baseball after COVID hit and I didn't get a chance to play again, and I was moving towards coaching. I remember I was throwing with the team that I was coaching at the time, and it had been only about a year, maybe not even a year, and I just had lost so much zip because I hadn't been throwing and I hadn't been working out as much as I did, and I had lost so much like velocity and power in my arm, and you could feel it almost immediately. I was trying to long toss with this kid and I could hardly, I had shoulder problems too, so that's a whole separate thing, but you lose it very quickly. It's amazing how much your body will atrophy and lose strength if you're not staying up on that stuff. So not too much time off, dude. Yeah, hockey's like baseball, a lot of minor leagues, a lot of travel. Yeah. The travel is tough in baseball. People don't talk about it really. But it's tough. The major leagues is obviously the easiest, but you guys don't know that there's seven plus levels underneath the major leagues that nobody realized that those guys are doing the same thing that the big league guys are doing, but they're not getting paid. They're not flying, so you're riding in buses. You're not eating well. You're not in a nice place to sleep. Hotels are not going to be good. And that stuff is tough. Traveling is tough, dude. Those bus trips, man, I've been in some bus leagues that are tough. I think the farthest one I ever did was 14 hours or so. Steve, you took 3 weeks off because you went overseas. Trained the week before, only plyos, started last Saturday and had no command. Yeah. Yeah, command's probably the first thing that goes, right? When you take time off. It'll come back. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I hope you sign up. We'll do some more work, man. We'll get you sorted out. Don't worry. You got time, man. You got plenty of time. It's only December. You got lots of time, dude. Don't worry about that. But yeah, command will come back. We'll get you sorted out if you sign up again. If you reactivate your program, we'll sign you. We'll get you sorted. Get that command back, dude. It's no problem. Take some time. Take some feel. Yeah, the more so than the velocity, the reason why I never wanted to take time off was because of command. I wanted to feel the pitches. I didn't want to lose touch with how this stuff felt coming out of my hand. I wanted to maintain that because it was so important to me. Alrighty, everybody. It's been fun, man. It's been a good hour. I think we're gonna wrap it up here, but I appreciate everybody coming and interacting and asking questions and chatting with me. Sorry for coughing through it. I know everybody's kind of been getting sick and hopefully feeling better. And oh, Steve, okay. Steve, send me an email, man. Maybe that's something we can do for you. All right, because I know you've been a member in the past, and do a bunch of stuff. So send me an email. You have my email, my ATP email. Just send me an email and remind me of this conversation that we're having right now. And we'll figure something out for you, okay? I don't want that to be the reason why you can't do what you want to do, okay? So let me know. Your experience is coaching a player who's never pitched before easier to teach versus a player with bad habits easier to fix? Hemi, that's a great question. I'm going to answer that before we get off because Steve, thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. You're good interaction. Yep. I think it's probably easier to coach someone who's got bad habits. But it depends on the kid because, teaching a new player is really difficult. I mean, there's so much that goes into learning baseball. It's really difficult. It would be difficult for me to do it just because we'd have to really start from the bare basics. But it really doesn't even matter about the content that you're teaching. It's just kind of the kid, because I've had kids that are really easy to coach that have bad habits that need correcting and need to fix dysfunctions in their mechanics. And they're really easy to coach and they make adjustments really quickly and are on top of it. And then I have kids who are like, there's only one small thing wrong, but they have the most difficult time correcting it. And I have a difficult time cueing them. And that makes my job as a coach really difficult and challenging, but it kind of depends on the kid. It's really not about what level they're at or if they know a lot or if they know a little. I think it's difficult if the kid has a difficult time understanding cues that you're giving him and translating that and communicating that with his body and trying to figure out how to fix stuff that can make coaching difficult. $180 seconds or less on YouTube said, do you think people gave you more of a look because of your brother? Good question. Maybe. I don't know. I definitely not in college. When I was getting recruited, I thought that would get me a scholarship or at least a guaranteed walk-on role in college. It didn't. I got offered no money from the same school that my brother went to in college. I got offered no money. And then he told me I was going to have to try out and earn my spot on the team. And that was after my brother got drafted and all that stuff. And then in getting into the minor leagues, I don't think so. I think that it maybe helped a little bit, but I think that these scouts aren't looking at your family. I think that, that they're pretty good at that just kind of being objective about this kid and his talent. And I don't think that would make a difference in their decision. Maybe a little bit, maybe it did. I have no idea. Either way, I'm happy, the way that it worked out. If it did help get them to look at me, then absolutely, I'll take that all day. And I appreciate my brother so much for it. So whatever. All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. Again, I appreciate y'all joining. If you guys want to like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, it'd be great. We're going to keep coming out with these live streams. Every week we'll have a kind of a topic on conversation, and I want you guys to bring some comments and some conversation to the chat so we can discuss things, and hopefully we'll have some guests on and we'll do some funky stuff going forward. Hopefully we get Dr. Heenan on here, and maybe I'll grab my brother for some conversations, and maybe we'll get Luke, our Stanford local pitching coach, to hop on here for ATP and we'll talk a little bit. But we got some ideas, but like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be rolling out some content here. So I appreciate y'all joining. Thank you for being here. If you guys need to reach out to me, I have my Twitter linked in the description. I think if you can get to my Twitter and you can DM me. And if you need anything, or if you're interested in our remote programming, our website's linked in the description as well for ATP. You guys can come to the ATP website and sign up for our either remote training or our remote throwing program. Obviously, I run the remote throwing program, so you'll be dealing directly with me if you sign up for that. But yeah, appreciate everybody being here, and let me know if I can do anything for you, and DM me on Twitter and hit me up. All right, we'll see you next time. Appreciate it.